Welcome to the Sales Prospector Show, supported by Lease, a sales rep and Inc. 5000 company, helping our clients grow sales by securing guaranteed appointments, qualified leads, and guaranteed contracts for their services and products across the U.S. I'm your host, Gil Pagan. You can find us on all social media channels and at leaseasalesrep.com. Thank you for listening in. It's going to be a great one today.
Oh, it's going to be a good one today. We got the opportunity to chat with Brian Kardon, the CMO of InVision app. I'm so glad that we can finally get together. Let me just prep our audience a little bit about what you guys do, and you can obviously chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. So if you're on Netflix or you're on Amazon and you see the Buy Now button on Amazon that used to be on the right of the screen when you would go to check out or something like that, and all of a sudden it's on the left of the screen, or it's at the bottom of the item, not on the right of the screen anymore. That's probably has something to do with Brian and his team somewhere. And Netflix, the same thing. If the ad to your saved list for movies as well kind of moves around, that's also some of the things that Brian's team does at InVision now, of course, in collaboration with the client, but they kind of make those things happen. So Brian is the CMO of InVision. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be here. Good to see you, Gil.
Yeah, man, likewise. And I know when we started chatting before we got on the interview here that a little bit about the platform and what you guys do, and we'll get into that in a minute, but talk a little bit about you and how you ended up as a CMO and kind of landed at InVision. A little bit background about you, then we'll get into the nuts and bolts of what exactly the platform does.
Sure, my pleasure. After graduate school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had studied marketing and finance. And so like a lot of young people, I went into consulting. So I joined a big consulting firm, became a partner there. And I was focused mostly on marketing and sales issues. This is at Deloitte. Part of Deloitte does strategy consulting. And then I started to see that, as some people have noted, technology is eating the world. It's just changing everything. And so I decided that the best course for me as a marketer and a go-to-market leader would be to get into technology. And so I joined several companies, Forrester Research as head of marketing and strategy, and then later Eloqua, who went public in 2012. And then I've been at InVision for a couple of years now. And so I just love how technology is making our lives better. It's allowing us to talk right now, even though we're hundreds of miles apart. Mm-hmm. And it's just changing everything, how we communicate with our children, how we get things done, medicine, vaccines, artificial intelligence is just such a vital part of our life. So I want to be part of that. As a marketer, it's really an exciting space to be in, technology.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and no, absolutely. In Deloitte, that name goes back a bit for us gray hairs here that are listening, and Forrester as well. Wow, good outfits for sure, and I'm sure you're doing a lot of great things there at InVision. I think that you guys been around. I don't know how long you guys been around. Well, you got 700 employees, about over 100 million in sales.
Yeah, about 10 years we've been around. We started 10 years ago.
Gotcha.
And it's interesting. We started as a fully remote company. We've never had an office ever. 0 offices, wow. Even though we have 700 employees. So we kind of drink our own champagne. We believe that you can have very enriching digital experiences, just like you mentioned, Gil, with Netflix. We help them figure out how to build their platform and how to build, whether it's Airbnb that uses us, or Uber, or Amazon, or Netflix, or actually we have 100% of the Fortune 100 as customers, which is wonderful. Wow. And so they build all their digital applications on our platform, which is really exciting.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, and I think you're at a 700 head count and more than 100 million in sales and a couple of venture rounds. You were talking a little bit about that and money and all that kind of stuff. And you guys got to keep growing, man. But you got some really good A-list clients. It looks like.
Yes.
That's fantastic. So the example of the platform, right? Kind of that I used on the beginning of the intro, that the user experience, that's basically us on the end of our screen, the back of our screen, looking at a platform, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
We're looking at something and we're the buyer, and we go through an experience, a user experience, That is obviously developed by developers and designers, to make it easy for us, the consumer, correct if I'm wrong, to kind of get through the process to buy something or have an experience with the brand. So your platform allows the developers, the designers, your clients to kind of play around with that.
Absolutely, to build the prototypes, build their digital store.
Yes.
Even we work for all the big banks in the world. Every large bank in the world uses our platform to build the mobile apps that you deposit checks on, and you check your balances on, and you wire money around. And so financial institutions are really big. Obviously, all the companies that are digital first, whether it's Facebook or Amazon or Netflix, as we mentioned, and lots of retail stores. So what's interesting is Walmart is one of the biggest digital operators in the world. People are buying so much at walmart.com, but every retailer now has a very large digital arm. And so we're the place where they build out those apps and they build out that user experience.
Right, and they build that, obviously, if they're looking to add a new service or some kind of new offering, they'll build that in the background using your app with the designers and developers, and then somehow
go live. Yeah, they'll test it. Right. They'll prototype it. Yeah, they'll set it up. They'll do some testing, and then they go live. But some of these sophisticated companies, they're doing hundreds of tests all the time. They don't know whether Gil's going to hit the red button or the blue button. They don't know how big to make the button. They don't know what the button ought to say. And so these very sophisticated digital companies are really experimenting and testing all the time. You are probably old enough, as am I, to remember direct mail. When direct mail used to do a lot of A/B testing, like we'll send the blue envelope and the red envelope, which one's going to do better? Right. Or $25 off or 25% off, which one pulls better? Right. And so we don't see this, but in fact, all these digital companies are doing testing all the time on offers, size of buttons, configuration, user experience, et cetera.
No, absolutely. So how does that work from a mechanics perspective? So you have a client, and they want to use the platform, and they want to make some kind of modifications to the platform to kind of make the experience easier for somebody to buy something, for example. How do they do that on with the platform? And then how does that get connected to the actual platform when it's going to go live? Like, is it uploaded? Is it like already connected and just hit the button and goes? How does those mechanics work?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a little bit like a photographer. Like a photographer can take a picture and then it can put all sorts of filters on and change it and change the picture. And then at some point they upload it, to the cloud, or they send it to somebody. And so that's kind of how it works for us. So we have ways of stretching things and putting images in and changing the line and changing the transitions and the animation. Like, we're not aware of all the thousands of things that happen every time we buy something from Whole Foods or from Amazon, or we download a movie from Hulu. So all those things sort of happen as a prototype. Then there's code that's written to it. They send it to a developer who writes the code, and then they make it live. But they probably don't send it to everybody at the same time. They probably do an A/B test. They may take 10,000 users and they may say, hey, let me have Gil and 10,000 other users try this experiment and let's see how well it performs. Does it make you watch more movies? Does your satisfaction rating go up? Does your session length go up? Does your level of engagement go up? Like, do we come back? Like, instead of coming back to Netflix every 3 days, you come back every 2 days. So they're looking at the metrics all the time for these tests. And so they're constantly changing.
Does the consumer know? I think we have chatted about this. Does consumer know that a new button is being added or something is being moved? Are they aware of this, or it just happens and you take the data on the back end?
Sometimes a company wants the user to know, and they'll say, hey, there's a new experience and we want to get your ratings. Or sometimes you'll go on and they'll say, hey, something's new here. And they'll give a pop-up that says, hey, Gil, you want to learn more about this experience? But most of the time, they're so subtle, you don't even see them. So I'd say 95% of the time, there's subtle changes that are being uploaded all the time into the software. Maybe it's happening overnight. Maybe it's happening while you're talking here, like your other apps on your laptop are uploading. So those things are happening all the time. But every once in a while, there's a major release where the thing just looks so different. It goes from black to white, or from an orange color to a blue color, or everything's changed. But most companies these days do more subtle changes. They don't want to do sort of a grand reveal. They're sort of testing things along the way.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know that that some of the digital platforms like the Amazons, the Hulus, the Netflix, all these kind of streaming type of services, online services, they are modifying stuff along the way. And as an example, I'll just digress here to email. When an email provider platform, they change and say, well, we have a new user look interface.
Exactly.
You like to change, and me, I'm like, no, I want to stay the same, so I have to use the new interface, right? I want to keep it the same, right? Why? Because everybody's so pressed for time. And I wonder if it's better just from a user experience or from the provider perspective, meaning the client or your client, that they are just like doing all these little changes little by little and not really letting the user know it's happening versus saying, well, here's the new Netflix experience and here's the old. Click here, you want to try the new. I'm like, me, no, I already know how to do the old. I don't want to learn anything new again. So I mean, I don't know. That's a marketing thing, I guess, from my
Well, it
perspective.
reminds me of old Coke, new Coke. Like, don't take away my old Coke. Like, I love the taste of it. No, 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 this is better. Gil, you're going to like the new product better. No, 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 I like the old product. And so
Right.
companies have to be very sophisticated because there are a lot of customers like yourself
Mm.
who are very embedded in how it looks and how it feels and the expectations. And so that's what I mean. They don't want to have these grand reveals, major changes. They want to do very subtle things. So over time, you get, very comfortable with it. There have been situations where companies have made major changes in the user experience and people turn off. They just exit or they switch somewhere else. They go to a competitor. So they have to be very careful and not not recognize that a lot of customers don't like change and they feel sort of overwhelmed. Just think about it. I don't know how many apps you have on your phone, but the average person has over 100 apps. And if every app is changing all the time, you're going to be very confused very quickly. So everything has to move very, very gently. But if you look at Amazon 2 years ago from where it is today, you won't even recognize the two, but it's happening so gradually and they take people through the journey that they've managed to keep people along for the ride.
Yeah, that's no, it's a very, very good point. I don't even remember what the changes were, if there were any. So I just
There's something you can go to the Wayback Machine and actually see what things like Yahoo or Amazon or Google search look like. And it's stunning how different it looked like a few years ago. So they're always trying to improve it.
I got you. So when a customer, I guess, comes on board, I'm assuming that a lot of the InVision app, correct me if I'm wrong, clients are going to be tech online kind of shopping experiences, streaming, various things like that, versus maybe, I don't say old school, but healthcare has gone a lot digital, but healthcare as an example, like a hospital network, going on with your platform. So is it safe to say tech software? Is that where you're playing for the most part?
It's every company that has a digital footprint. So it could be a very traditional business, even something like Disney theme parks. Oh, that's a theme park. I drive to a theme park. Well, they have an app for their parking. They have an app for the rides that allow people to do a fast pass to get in the front of their line. So you just don't realize it, that even physical businesses have a huge digital business. When I make a hair appointment, I don't pick up the phone anymore. I go to the website and I book a hair appointment. And so someone's working on that. So virtually every physical business has a digital side to it. As I mentioned, even financial services, Goldman Sachs or Bank of America or Wells Fargo Bank, all these companies have just huge digital presence. And so we're a big part of that.
I got you. So you're operating then in a couple of or multiple verticals. Do you find yourself
virtually every industry? So even a university, just think about a college. Okay, so I apply. Well, how do I apply? I apply online.
Right.
Like there's a digital application, and then I upload my letters of reference and I upload my college board scores, and then the university gets them. Then they send you a note, we received them. Then you send something back. Then you get your acceptance letter. Nothing like that happens physically anymore. I have a friend whose daughter just applied to medical school, and there's zero physical stuff going on. It's 100% digital. Wow. So applying to medical school, even the interview happens like this. Like human beings aren't getting on planes and doing stuff or walking into stores anymore. Think about the travel agent you used to talk to. Think about the bank teller. There's just so many jobs that have sort of disappeared to digital means. I'm even looking at your backdrop, at least a sales rep.
Right.
Like a lot of sales reps have been replaced by digital experiences.
Mhm.
Right now, Tesla, you can buy directly.
Mhm.
There's still a role for a really great sales rep to convey information and help people through the process and do it. But a lot of categories have completely moved to digital and bots and the different kinds of experiences without human beings.
Yeah, that's yeah, it's very interesting. I wonder, so a lot of the, let's say, the business community, the business sector, is involved with user experiences based on their websites, mobile apps, all those kind of things. I wonder how government, um, how government has responded to this kind of wave, and is government, and I'm looking at universities, and many universities are government, they're public universities supported by the states and would like to, but there's a lot of private ones, right? But government, I wonder if government is using these kind of services.
They're all using it. I'll give you an example of a really bad experience. Do you
Okay.
remember trying to get an appointment to get a vaccine for COVID? Do you remember how screwed up this thing was?
Yeah.
It's like the website was just terrible. They weren't prepared. That's an example of a really bad user experience.
Okay.
Like they didn't have a good user interface to get your vaccine.
Mhm.
But there are other good experiences. Like I know a lot of people who go to the Social Security Administration, SSA.gov,
Mhm.
and they can get their calculation, what their Social Security is, and they get all their earnings. There are lots of good examples. I have friends who are veterans,
Mhm.
and they find that they can get their benefits as veterans. They can make doctor's appointments. So the government definitely is thinking about not just to have great user experiences, but how do we replace
Mhm.
human beings on the phone, thousands of people on the phone that have to answer questions with digital experiences. Just like banks have replaced a lot of people with digital experiences, all government entities are doing that as well. Some are doing it better than others.
Yeah, moving people to the web and just other mechanisms, phone systems, and like to keep people off of a direct body. Given
Now, I used to think, I got to say, here's my bias. I
Sure.
used to think that the human to human experience is a better one, and everyone would rather deal with the person.
Mhm.
But as I talk to young people in particular, they say, why would I want to talk to a human being who's going to put me on hold for 5 minutes, doesn't have the answer? I'd rather just talk to a bot or AI. I'd rather deal with an application, with a web application.
Mhm.
So increasingly, we're seeing that digital experiences can actually be better than human experiences.
Yeah, that's no, that yeah, for the younger crowd and the millennials and the Gen Xers or something like that, from what I understand.
I even find that to be the case. I could go to the supermarket and have a pretty bad experience, or I could buy everything using the supermarket's app where I have a really good experience. So I
Mhm.
think there's some real questions. I know ourselves, we have always had a big customer support function where customers who are challenged or need help, and we have human beings. And we started to move to bots and automation where people can find answers themselves. And we looked at the satisfaction scores, the net promoter scores, and they're actually higher when they interact with software rather than they interact with a human being, which was shocking to me.
Yeah, that's shocking to me too.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That kind of, if you kind of this is not the purpose of our conversation, but if you peel back the onion a little bit, I wonder if because the experience with humans has been so bad with
Yeah.
customer service.
Exactly.
So they don't have to deal with the attitude or not knowing the information or what have you, not even deal with a automated system. It's kind of a reflection of where we are today.
Exactly.
I suppose that's
Exactly.
fascinating. So when a client reaches out to you guys and engages or begins a discovery, we call it discovery. I don't know
Sure.
what you guys call it.
We call that too. First call is
Okay.
a discovery call. Yeah.
Okay, to kind of chat with you about some challenges they're facing, some things they want to look at, or fixing their interface or what have you. How does that process go to engage with you guys to do that? How's it work?
Well, as you know, there are a couple different motions. One is we have an outbound motion to accounts that have shown some intent. They've come to our website, they downloaded something, they've watched something, maybe they've gone to a website, maybe they've actually read a review of some of our competitors. So then we have an outbound motion where we call them and we start engaging with them. And that's usually done by a inside sales rep who has some information. We have a belief that we should respond to people right away. And so our SLA, our service level agreement, is within 20 minutes. We want to get back to people who have expressed an interest.
Mhm.
And usually we make 7 calls and we send out about 5 emails. So persistence really matters in this day and age. Like, think about, I have email blockers and I have phone blockers, and it's very hard to reach people these days. And so we have an inside sales rep who would call them, say, hey, I saw you were downloaded something. Looks like you have they would do the research. They would try to have a discovery call to identify whether there's a pain point or they're in a search. We try to get to them very early with something called intent data that I mentioned, people who are very early in the search. So we have an outbound motion, and we also have an inbound motion from our website, from our campaigns, where someone says, hey, my name is Gil, and I'd like to talk to a sales rep. And so that's wonderful. And that goes directly to the rep in that territory. All of our accounts are assigned, and it goes directly to the rep, and we tell the rep to respond right away. And then we track conversion rates. We also try to record most of our calls. Just like this call is being recorded and you ask me permission, we do ask permission to record the calls. And we use AI to sort of crawl through the calls for what is mentioned. They mention a competitor. They talk about price. Are they looking for certain features? Who is the champion? Are you the influencer? Are you the final decision maker? So that's all part of the discovery call. But we find that recording the calls, having a transcript is very helpful and very educational for the sales organization.
So once they come into your funnel, and obviously they've spoken to someone initially, and there seems to be some kind of need there, obviously there's a lot of technical stuff that's going to go on here, and a plan or a program or something like that. I'm assuming that that's it. They speak to another person, technical person, or some, okay. Yeah. To kind of go through that, like what do you have in mind specifically, and how do we engage, and then you come up with a proposal, I'm assuming.
Well, let me slow it down for a second. A big
ahead.
part of, I think, the sales job is also disqualifying opportunities.
Oh, I agree.
So, think about it. What a waste of time. If everyone's qualifying, you spend months working on the account, and it's a small deal. It's just $1,000. Or it's not a good fit for you, or there's something later on you discover that's a deal killer. Let's say they need a high level of security, or you got to be HIPAA compliant, or you can't have a database located in a certain country. So you want to get those disqualifiers out of the way. I find that a lot of reps are always looking at things with rose-colored glasses. They're very optimistic about everything. And so we try to have a really good disqualification process, and to disqualify people out, saying, thank you for your interest, but we don't really do that. I think it's hard for a lot of reps to actually use those words to say, that's really not a good fit for us. We suggest you talk to somebody else or another company. And so I think disqualification is really a big deal. Another big part of our selling motion, if I could, is I mentioned we have 100% of the Fortune 100. So it's not all about new logos. It's expanding in existing logos. So we have a really good land motion, and the expansion is just a huge part of our growth. So I mentioned Disney. So let's say we're Disney amusements, theme parks, but we haven't penetrated yet Disney animation, or Disney films, or Disney retail stores, or Disney licensing, or Disney whatever. So that's a big part of what we do. We get into one part of the company, and we try to use that relationship to go wall to wall. And for us, at least, more than 50% of our new dollars are coming from our installed base. These thousands of companies that currently use us, but we don't have all the users we could, the TAM, the total available market to us. Or sometimes we call it the potential market, PAM, potential account market.
Right, you're going horizontal instead of vertical.
Exactly right.
Within the accounts, they're big enough. So, I mean, obviously, you
absolutely
have a lot of opportunity there to do that. Yes, I guess once you disqualify them, obviously, we don't have, quite frankly, our organization, we don't have any issues to qualifying people. So
yeah,
because this is
smart.
Time is money, and we don't want to spend our wheels with people that are not qualified, can't pay, can't buy the service, the product our clients have, and it's just we're not the right solution. That's all. And
exactly,
move on to another provider that can meet your needs. So that said, then once they're qualified, they are, I guess, speaking to someone else about specifics, I suppose, about a particular.
Yeah, we get a lot of specifics. Sometimes we'll match up their technical person with someone technical on our side. We'll understand their use cases. They're going to want to get some references, speak to other people in their industry who've had, good experience with us. So we try to provide that, very often they'll ask for a proof of concept, like they'll ask for a sandbox. Could you give us a little instance of your product? We want to play around with it, look at it, and work with it. So we let them do that. So that's all part of the sales process. And, it's very interesting. Some deals close really fast and some deals take a long time. And we try to look at two things. We look at conversion rates, what percentage of the opportunities are closed won. And we also look at cycle time, which, as you know, really matters. If time is money, then a deal that takes 3 years is not as valuable as a deal that takes 3 months or 3 weeks. And so we're looking at that. We found certain industries or certain factors are predictive of longer cycle times. Very often it's a security audit, or there's a purchasing committee, where things get stuck. Very often if it's multiple countries, a lot of decision makers. I'm sure you see this all the time, deals that just have a long cycle to them. Sometimes those are the best deals because once you land them, you're in, and it took a lot of hard work and you really built a trust over the course of that selling relationship. And once you're in, you can expand quite a bit, but those are hard to penetrate. And those are very challenging to pursue a client over 6 months or a year or 2 years. Certainly government, education, there are lots of sectors that are good examples of super long cycle times. And it sometimes tries people's patience to stay with it. Do you guys ever run into that where you're focused on something and do you guys have the patience and the will to stay with an account, even though it's maybe a year cycle time?
Personally, in our organization, we will walk away from deals that take too long and people take forever to make decisions, and because we will move them along in the decision-making cycle to make a decision and give us concrete feedback versus staying in a indecisive kind of mode. So we will walk away and we'll close out the discussion, and then when they wake up, we'll be here, ready to serve and ready to work together if that's the case, or they went in another direction. That's fine too, because quite frankly, we believe, and it's just a personal, probably me issue, but we believe that if your organization, no matter what size, there are 2, 3 top decision makers in that organization. I don't care how big it is. But everybody's afraid to make decisions, and they want to get everybody on board to make a decision so that when something, God forbid, it's the wrong decision, we all made it together. That's bureaucracy, my friend. And
we've seen that. The whole cover your ass. Like no one wants to be on the line. It's like we all hold hands. We're in this together. If we screw it up, like there's no one person you can point to.
Exactly. I came out of corporate, so we will walk away from those because it's going to frustrate our people, our team. It's going to take up resources. So listen, when you guys are ready, we'll reach out in 3, 4, 5 months. If you're closer, great. If not, man, we didn't waste our time anyhow. So that's the way I see it.
Gil, 2 things you said that are really interesting. One is you look for specific feedback. And we tell our reps all the time, like if the feedback's very vague, hey, it was a really good presentation. No, you got to dig into the details, what worked, what didn't work. And very often we found that customers sometimes are hesitant to be that specific, but that's good salesmanship when you're really digging at those details.
And no, you're absolutely right. And one thing that we also learned, they don't give you the detail you're seeking and they're still evasive. That tells you something else. So you're still getting an answer, not the one you like, but it's like, well, that tells you really they're not ready yet. They're not serious. They're talking to a lot of other companies or providers. Or say, okay, that's fine. That really, you gave us an answer. You weren't direct about it, but you did by not telling us what we were asking. And we will ask it in multiple ways. We will push them into a corner nicely. And sometimes they respond, and sometimes they're smart and they get it. They know exactly what we're doing when we're asking for the information. Listen, we're trying to make sure that we can help, and we don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you to waste ours. I mean, so that's being very honest and very direct and gracious with love and caring and grace. We try to do it, not all the time, to be quite frank, but that's just the way it is. But no, you guys are doing some great work there. I mean, it's clearly with that kind of clientele and across multiple verticals, because of the digital experience and the user experience on multiple levels, mobile apps, desktops, laptops, all that kind of stuff. Industry verticals. I mean, then now you're in these big clients, and you're going horizontal, which makes a lot of sense. Sure. So you guys are clearly doing some really good things there. So now we're going to get to the lightning round questions, and this is the kind of the fun stuff. So are you a coffee drinker?
Yes,
Hot or cold?
definitely hot.
Okay, great. Do you like hot dogs?
No,
Okay, hamburgers?
no,
Okay, pizza?
yes.
Okay, talk to me about a topping on your pizza.
I do like very thin pizza, very simple margarita pizza. Don't load it up with a bunch of toppings. I don't like it thick. I like it, they serve it in Napoli. I like it very thin crust. I know a lot of people like thicker crust, softer, doughy things. I don't like that. Super
Right.
thin, beautiful crust, minimal ingredients. I'm sort of a minimalist. When they start
Yeah.
piling on things, it's not a pizza anymore. It's
I got you. It's a sandwich.
it's a sandwich. Thank you.
Right, I got you. So you are Android, Apple.
All Apple all the way. Yeah.
Yes, the creative elements and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people in the space marketing, and yeah, I gotcha. So when you're doing driving or you're working out or you're riding a bike or whatever you're doing, are you listening to music or are you listening to a podcast or what are you doing?
It's always music that I listen to. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, no, that's great. And if you had the ability to go anywhere, and money and time was not an issue, where would you go?
That's a great question.
I
I'm
try.
fascinated. Yeah, I'm fascinated by Asia, Southeast Asia. So I've been to some parts of it, but I would spend more time there, get to know the culture. It's so different. I spent a lot of time in Europe on business, and I kind of think they're a lot like us in North America. And so visiting different countries, I've been to Japan about a dozen times. I'm just fascinated by how different that culture is. So I love to spend time in China, in Thailand, Philippines. That's where I'd enjoy going.
Oh, wow. Okay, no, that's great. And another a question here, and it doesn't have to be business. Your answer doesn't have to be business related. It doesn't matter. If you had a superpower given to you, what kind of superpower would that be? To do what? Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be business. It can be business. Some people will do that. It doesn't matter. It can be personal. It doesn't matter.
Uh, to be a great scientist and to heal people. Like the world is hurting so much from so many things. So I wish I was more of a scientist than a marketer, although I love data science. But if I could cure diseases and help people that are afflicted with problems and challenges, I'd love to be able to do that.
Powerful. Yeah, that is excellent, amazing. Thank you for sharing some personal stuff as well. And so 30-second wrap up. The InVision app, value prop from the CMO. This is what we do, and wrap it up for us in 30 seconds.
The world's going through a transformation, and sort of COVID has certainly accelerated that. People are having digital experiences, and every company is building apps and mobile experiences. And so if you want to build the best customer experience in the world, we're the platform to do it. Like every company in the world that has a great user experience is using InVision to do it. And so if you're not using InVision, you should think about it. So the great experience you have getting your films from Netflix or buying products from Amazon or getting a car from Uber, those experiences were all built on the InVision platform.
Excellent, excellent. We were chatting with Brian Kardon of the InVision app, the CMO. They're doing some great work there. Listen, thank you so much for being on the show. Enjoyed chatting with you. Listen, may this year be a breakout year for you guys, and that you may experience growth that you've never experienced before.
Thank you so much.
All the best. Much success to you, my man.
My pleasure. Thank you, Gil.
Well, all right, man.